We are back. It has been a while. It's been a couple months. Welcome back to the TWIR Weekly Podcast. I'm actually going to make these weekly this time. Just starting a new year, there's actually stuff to talk about this week, which is great. Great. I can actually, make content again. Before we begin, I'm going to make sure to do this at the beginning so you don't have to wait 45 minutes for me to remind you. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, share with your friends who might have an absurd amount of time on their hands and want to listen to a 45-minute podcast. I have a bunch of social media links, including my Twitter, where I show up quite often. Linked in the description, along with some Discord servers that might be fun to come and hang out in. So, enough babbling about YouTuber plugs. Enjoy the rest of the podcast. So, Rolex 24 highlight video will be out in a couple of days from this video's release. And we've got the Google Doc up. Let's just go down the list. Some of these items are quite old, actually. Some of these are from December, I think. But starting off, we have NASCAR at the top here of my note sheet. We have Amazon and TNT joining the 2025 NASCAR TV calendar. This is going to be, I believe, the summer stretch. It's going to be like 6 or so races. Remember, Xfinity Series is going to the CW next year, or 2025. So great to see more TV providers, and hopefully we see Amazon and TNT taking more races away from Fox if Fox's broadcasts don't get better. I know they brought in Kevin Harvick this year for commentary, and the booth was the three in the booth, Mike Joy, Kevin Harvick, and Clint Boyer. It was much better after watching the Clash. It was a much, much, much better broadcast with Kevin Harvick in there instead of, somebody like Jeff Gordon or, God forbid, Danica Patrick. Going down, if you were looking to going to the Daytona 500, you are out of luck. Grandstands and camping are sold out for the 2024 500, so you are out of luck if you're trying to secure a ticket just a couple weeks out. Not gonna happen for you. The entry list for the Daytona 500 is sitting right now at 41 cars. We have 5 non-chartered entries. We have, what do we have? The 60 for RFK. We have the 84 Legacy Motor Club car. That's Jimmy Johnson's car. We have Beard Motorsports, the 62 for Anthony Alfredo. We have, what else? There's 2 more. We have Live Fast Motorsports. BJ McLeod is back. Open car that's running a part-time schedule. There is no third Colleague car this year, and there is no third 2311 car this year. Oh, and we have the Front Row Motorsports number 36. That's Kaz Gralla in the 36. He's driving most of the season for Rick Ware. Sadly, he did not get the full season because Cody Ware's back. But so the 5 open cars are the 60, the 36, the 84, the 78, and what was the last one? The 62. We have Beard Motorsports too. So David Reagan, Anthony Alfredo, BJ McLeod, Jimmy Johnson, and Kaz Gralla will be attempting the Daytona 500 in non-locked-in entries. So we have 41 cars going for 40 spots. One of those 5 will go home. I don't think there's going to be any more late entries. We saw Money Team a couple years ago come in really late, but I don't think that's going to happen again this year to bring the entry list up to 42 where it was last year. Grand Marshal for the Daytona 500. The one, the only, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Just thought mentioning that would be good because there was a big news release about it, and he was in a couple of Daytona 500 commercials from a few months ago if you watch the NFL. Going to the first race of the season. I have mixed feelings on the Clash. I don't like the venue. I It's unique. I like that they're branching out to a short track, but this is not the way to do a short track. I am not a fan of stadium racing. Not in the slightest. I think it's great for an exhibition race. I was really holding my breath if they were looking for an LA Coliseum points race. I really did not want that to happen. This is the last contracted year for the Clash. They did move the race up one day early because, it's NASCAR and there has to be a weather delay. Or in this case, a weather, what's the opposite of postponement? They moved it up one day because LA was like going to flood tonight. It's Sunday night when I'm recording this. Yeah, so there's going to be a ton of rain, so they moved the race up one day. It was a Saturday night now. They canceled the heat races and qualifying was set off of final practice time, which meant that the Machine Gun Kelly concert got canceled, which a lot of NASCAR Twitter people were very happy that the Machine Gun Kelly halftime show got canceled. So, the Clash, we had a few interesting storylines. One of them was like right before halfway. So they did like 75 laps. They have a halftime break where drivers and teams can work on their cars. And then they have the 75 laps all the way to the end. 2 laps before the halftime break, there's a yellow. I forget what for. It was somebody spun. NASCAR says that they have 1 lap to get to halfway. So they go green, basically like what they did for the Indy 500 this year, but it was only like it's a quarter-mile track. It's a 13-second lap. So they go green for 1 lap. Kyle Larson gains 3 spots. Kyle Busch drops like 4, and Joey Logano's still ahead at halfway. Completely unnecessary, but it's this stupid exhibition gimmick where the Clash at the Clash only green flag laps count. So, which is good in some cases, but at that point, I would just make an exception. So, in the end, it was looking like Ty Gibbs was going to run away with this and become the 3rd person to win the Clash before winning their first points race. Jeff Gordon and I don't know who else did. I forgot the second guy. But he would have become the 3rd person to win the Clash before winning a points race. That didn't happen because he spun with a few laps left, and Denny Hamlin got to win the Clash. What might possibly be the final Clash at the Coliseum. We honestly have no clue where they're gonna run the Clash next year. They haven't announced a contract extension. They haven't announced anything at all. It's completely up in the air. I would like to see them go back to the Daytona Road Course because Daytona Road Course is perfectly suited for the next gen car. Next gens are, in general, very entertaining on road courses. Chicago was great. Watkins Glen, despite having no yellows, I think was a good race. Had 1 yellow because, Alan Gustafson had a 0 IQ moment. But I would like to see the Clash go back to Daytona, but run it at the road course like they did in 2021, just to do something different. That way you don't have the Clash on the oval, duels on the oval, 500 on the oval. It's just going to get boring for people. To have a little bit of variety in there in terms of course layout will be great. And hopefully we get to see the front stretch chicane at Daytona back, because they had that like chicane that they carved out on the front stretch going just before the start finish line to slow the cars down that IMSA doesn't use. So I kind of want to see that come back, because that's like a weird track layout that I actually kind of liked. I really wouldn't want to know how that would fare if IMSA used it, and how many people would get penalties just for straight up forgetting that there was a chicane there. Because at least with the bus stop, there's grass, which there might not be much grass longer. They paved over a huge chunk of it after Ryan Preece flipped, and they sounds like they're going to pave over the rest at the bus stop, which is kind of sad. Just makes it bland. It's just a curve off the straight now. There's nothing unique about it. It doesn't feel like a road course. It just feels like you're driving off the road for a second. It just looks like the rest of the backstretch, except for like sausage curbs, which they're taking those up too when they're going to take those up too when they pave that over, and they're just going to have them for the IMSA races, and I forget what else races there, but I don't know what the layout that Moto America uses or whatever the motorcycles use. Anyway, moving on, INDYCAR. This is where I thrive, and we got some very, very good news. This was a long time ago, but I'm still going to mention it. INDYCAR finally terminated its gaming license for with Motorsport Games. The Motorsport Games is getting absolutely nothing done. It's getting clearer and clearer that it's just a money scheme run by Dmitry Kozko. And they are back with iRacing, which means the iRacing Indy 500 will happen this year, which is great. You no longer have to censor IndyCar content on iRacing anymore, because they still had IndyCars on iRacing, but they didn't have the Dallara branding, they didn't have the IndyCar branding, and I don't know what the story was with running at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, because now IndyCar and IMS are both owned by Roger Penske. But you couldn't stream IndyCar races on YouTube. You would get blocked. You would get copyright striked, and that won't happen anymore because now they're back with iRacing and everything is well and good again. Hybrid people, yeah. You're not getting your 2.4 liter V6 hybrid until after the 500, which is fine. I don't really care. If they make the cars faster, I'm fine with the hybrid, but generally I'm against it. But that is completely my view. And this is kind of sad because Dreyer and Reinbold came out with their driver lineup for the 500. It's going to be Ryan Hunter-Reay in the 23, and then Connor Daly is going to be driving the Cusick number 24 instead of Stephen Wilson, which sucks because if you remember last year, Stephen Wilson broke his back in Monday practice before the 500. He was in the 500 in the 24 DRR Cusick car, and he broke his back after getting hit by Catherine Legg in turn number 1, which set up this incredible story for Graham Rahal to replace him in the 500. I really, you know what, this might be a hot take here, but I really wanted to see J.R. Hildebrand in that car instead of Graham Rahal. But Graham Rahal ended up in the 24 after getting bumped out in his own car by Jack Harvey because RLL was horrendously slow last year, except for the street courses. So it's going to be Hunter-Reay and Daly, which means that Stephen Wilson probably will not run the Indy 500 this year, which sucks because now it's 2 years that he won't. The last time he ran the 500 was 2022 in that like Frankenstein car with Dragon Speed and Cusick and Juncos Hollinger and a bunch of other. I think Foyt built some stuff for that car. It was a Frankenstein team, but yeah, sucks that Stephen Wilson's probably going to have to sit out another year. Moving on to it's IMSA time. All right, so Porsche wins the Rolex 24. I was kind of livid after this finish. They came to the line for what ended up being the white flag. And NBC, I was watching the NBC stream, so I don't know if any people watching IMSA TV comment what you saw. I was watching NBC, and NBC showed 2 laps to go. They come around through the bus stop around the final turn. It's Felipe Nasr ahead of I don't know who was in the car at that point, Aitken or Pippo Durrani, but they get to the line and they throw the checkered. I'm confused. They can't. Once they throw the checkered, it's like an erroneous whistle thing in the NFL. Once they throw the checkered, it's over. Which sets a really dangerous precedent, because if it's like 3 hours in and the flagman accidentally throws the checkered, the race is over. That's a very dangerous precedent to set. So you've got to contain that rule a little bit more so stuff like that doesn't happen. But there should have been one. There should have been one more lap, because the leader crossed at like 23 hours, 58 minutes, and like 54 seconds or something like that. Something that was well over a minute short. Should have run another lap. The GTD winner hit 24 hours almost exactly on the dot. The finishing time, the overall elapsed time for the GTD winner was 24 hours and 1 second. But anyway, moving on from the finish controversy, we are going to give credit where credit is due. Porsche Penske Motorsports drove a pretty good race. They had a weird issue with the 6 car after a pit stop, where it just kind of locked up and just slid into the grass and had just sat there for like 5 minutes. So the overall winners in GTP were the 7 Porsche Penske Motorsports 963, Dane Cameron, Felipe Nasr, Matt Campbell, and Joseph Newgarden, who has won an Indy 500 and a Rolex 24 within a year. So he's been on a roll lately. It was Pippo Durrani at the end of the race in the 31 Action Express Cadillac that probably could have made a move if the race had gone one lap longer. In LMP2, this was the race I was very mad because Sean Creech Motorsport caused like 5 yellows. We'll get to that later. Era Motorsports number 18, another very good paint scheme, by the way. Dwight Merriman, Ryan Dial, Connor Zilic, and Christian Rasmussen. Connor Zilic is now the second youngest person to win the Rolex 24 in class. He's 17 years, 6 months, and 11 days, I think. I don't have the stat in front of me, but I know the first 2 numbers. I'm not sure about the days. No LMP3 this year. That really didn't matter because we still had the 33 in LMP2 that caused half of the yellows, which is insane. GTD Pro really wanted to see Rexy, the green Porsche 911 win, but we didn't. We saw the Risi Ferrari with all the hypercar drivers win in GTD Pro. Daniel Serra, Davide Rigon, Alessandro Pierguidi, and James Calato. In GTD, everyone in the IMSA Discord was screaming about how this was how the car had Bowsette from the Mario universe inside the car, and the artist actually responds like, "Hey, Ma, I'm on TV." But it was the Bowsette car. It was Windward Racing, the number 57, Russell Ward, Philip Ellis, Indy Donji, and Daniel Morad. Which what other storylines we have here? Yeah, I'm not mentioning the Devlin DeFrancesco thing. I'm not gonna. I don't even know why that's on the note sheet. I'm getting rid of that. The unfortunate. I don't even know what the unfortunate last place finisher is. I want to say it was a P2 car. It was either the 11 or the 44. Because Stephen Thomas had a really bad wreck coming out of the bus stop only a couple hours in, and then going back down to the other news storylines. Vassar Sullivan had a terrible day. Their GTD Pro car was out only a couple hours in, or no, not even an hour in. I don't think their GTD Pro car was already was already done. Okay, so yeah, their total time was 14 hours. So they did get back out there, but there was a wreck in turn 1 involving the 33 Sean Creech LMP2 car, the high class number 20, which also ended up retiring, but for a completely different reason, just because it was slow, and the 14 Vassar Sullivan GTD Pro Lexus. The Lexus spent hours in the garage. They came back out and they had more issues, and they eventually decided to put the thing out of its misery and retire. And then the 12, the GTD AM car was running really, really well until they get into the final hour. And they they get to the final hour, and Aaron Telitz comes out of the pit lane and the car bursts into flames. They have pain at the beginning of the race and they have pain at the end of the race. It's just one horrible sandwich for Vassar Sullivan Lexus guys. Sucks for them. Because they've done really well. They're GTD Pro champions, the 14 car. So hopefully they bounce back at Sebring. And another thing we get to see at Sebring for the first time in IMSA, IMSA at least, is the Lamborghini LMDH, which I have. It's probably the most beautiful out of all of the hypercars that have been built across the WC and IMSA. I really like it, but my only complaint with it is since it's a Ligier bodied car, it has the Ligier next gen LMP2 spine. It should be right hand drive. I'm sorry, I'm too connected to the modern, the current Ligier LMP2 car, other than the 2027 car that's probably going to get pushed back to like 2030. The Lamborghini LMDH should be right-hand drive. If it's a Ligier body, it should be right-hand drive. I am sorry. But I don't know who decided that. If it was Lamborghini or Ligier, I don't know if it was the chassis designer or the actual manufacturer. So, still, that's the only thing that I see that's wrong with that car in my eyes. The SC63 is a beautiful car, and hopefully it's really fast. Hopefully it wins Sebring on its debut. We will see it in Qatar for the WEC, though, first. Moving on. Sean Creech Motorsports. Oh, my word. I had a field day in the IMSA Discord with these guys. This car caused... Oh, my word. I don't even know. At least 4 yellows, which is absurd because I don't know how many cautions we had in total. I'm not total full course yellow laps 89. It doesn't say here on this document how many individual cautions there were, but the Sean Creech Ligier caused at least 4 of them, which is, I don't know if that's an achievement or like a serious issue. It's probably a serious issue. I was talking to one of my friends about this, and he's like, they're gonna make it to Long Beach, and then they're gonna buy an Orca, because the story of how they bought this this chassis, they found it in a barn in Europe. There's someone just left it there, and they found this car in 2021. Someone had left it there. I'm guessing the last time multiple teams ran Ligiers in the same series was 2020, 24 Hours of Le Mans, which was supposed to be the greatest Le Mans ever, but, Ginetta ran out of money, so it wasn't. But there were like 5 Ligiers in the field. My bet is that car was owned by one of the teams at Le Mans in 2020. But they find the car in a barn, and they're like, yeah, we run a Ligier in LMP3, So why not just run the car with the absolute worst gearbox ever? And that's like the only thing wrong with the car is it just has a bad gearbox. There was one that ran at Daytona a couple years ago, run by Rick Ware Racing, probably the most beautiful LMP2 car ever. They ran very well. They were fourth for most of the race, and then they just kind of collapsed when Cody Ware and Austin Dillon got in the car. I think it was Cody Ware, yeah, because they had like Cody Ware, Austin Dillon, Sally Yolick, and somebody else I can't think of. But anyway, yeah, they find this car in a barn, and they just decide, hey, yeah, we have an LMP3 car that's the same manufacturer, so we're just gonna run this because we want to be different, which is great. The Ligier is a beautiful car. It ran really well in the combined prototype era for IMSA. Like if you look at the Endurance Cup rounds for IMSA, there were like 3 or 4 Ligiers running in the prototype class back when DPI and LMP2 were running in the same class. BMW had some problems. I was personally asleep when this happened because I'm not staying up for 24 hours straight. But apparently in the middle of the night, both the 24 and the 25 BMW had like a spontaneous mechanical failure. They had something go wrong, and it was both of them at the same time. And so I get up, and the 24 and the 25 are both 13 laps down to the GTP leader. Not awful, because I'm like, if the 33's still out there, there could be enough cautions for the BMWs to reasonably make up 13 laps. But I then look at the ticker and realize that the 33 is 100 laps down and out of the race. So BMW's hopes were gone now that the 33 was out, basically. So I know they had a hybrid system failure on the 25 last year. They did really well with the 24. It was just slow. They in the first hour they had a hybrid system problem with the 25 and ended up going like 100 laps down, but still finished. I remember that for like they had Nick Yololi stay in the car until they could like turn the hybrid system off, because if he jumped out of the car, he'd probably get electrocuted, which is, hybrid system's great. Moving on, both of my GTP picks for the race dropped out in the middle of the night. The number 10 Wayne Taylor Acura. I'm not sure what happened. It just like stopped and wouldn't start again. And same thing, and right about the same time, the 01 Cadillac, the Chip Ganassi Cadillac spun, but it kept going. And then I wake up, and there's like 6 hours left and the car's out, and I get on Discord and I see that somebody has a video of it getting towed back to the paddock. I look on the ticker and it's out. So I'm not really sure what happened. It was probably just some sort of mechanical issue, but the GTP failure rate was much higher than it was last year. Out of the 10 GTP cars, like 4 of them didn't have issues. And that's the 7, the 31, the 40 spun multiple times, the second Wayne Taylor Acura. The 6 had an issue coming out of pit lane. The 5 and the 85, the Proton Mustang sampling Porsche and the Banana Boat JDC Miller Porsche, both did fine. They were great. The 85 JDC Miller car was 2 laps down, but whatever. Still, 6th place is 6th place. And props to Ben Keating for somehow figuring out how to drive a Porsche 963 the first time he gets into it. So that's it for the Rolex section. Speaking of Lamborghini, they might run a second hypercar at the World Endurance Round in COTA, which is the American race this year. And they might run a second car at Indianapolis, the Tire Rack Battle on the Bricks, which is the new 6-hour race for the Michelin Endurance Cup. So I would really like to see that because they only have the Endurance Cup car. That car is not full time. It's only running the 5 endurance races, which is that's weird for me to say now because I'm so used to saying 4. But there are 5 now. It's Daytona, Sebring, Watkins Glen, Indianapolis, and Road Atlanta, which is great. My hometown track gets an endurance race. Peugeot, they had their wingless hypercar that did really well at Le Mans until I forget who was in the car. It might have been Gustavo Menezes binned it in the first chicane and got stuck in the gravel. But they are adding a wing reluctantly to make it better at every single track except for Le Mans, because the Peugeot 9X8 was designed specifically for Le Mans, and it did its job. It did really well at Le Mans in the wingless configuration. They've added a wing. It's a very subtle wing. It's not like the common Le Mans prototype wing where there's a big shark fin and like a bar hanging from the shark fin. It's not like that. It's lower, and it's a little bit lower profile, so it's still got it still looks like it doesn't have a wing. It just has like a box where the wing where like the rear downforce used to be. I still really like it. I hope they keep the livery that they ran on it last year, but the quote unquote wingless car will still get one last drive. They will run it at Qatar because the new one will not be ready until the second round of the season at Imola. So we will have one more race with the wingless 9X8 before they go to the box wing one. Moving on to Ferrari. Ferrari's got a third car this year. For the WEC, they have a third car that they keep insisting is not affiliated with the factory effort in any way. But they have the 83 that's going to be driven by Robert Kubica, Yifei Ye, and now the third driver is Robert Schwartzman, Ferrari F1 Academy driver, Formula 2 driver for a long time for Prema. But good to see him get a sports car ride because that 83 car is going to have a good chance at Le Mans, and having a lineup of Robert Kubica, Yifei Ye, and Robert Schwartzman is a huge bonus. All 3 of them are incredibly talented drivers. Yeah, in the last couple months, since I've been completely quiet on YouTube, Aston Martin's back. Remember, they were one of the first teams to commit to hypercar in 2019, and then they pulled out because they went to Formula One. They're reversing that decision. The Valkyrie AMR hypercar will run next year. They will enter at least one car next year. There is a difference from the 2019 concept because this new car is not a hybrid, which doesn't matter to me as long as it's fast and it sounds good because it's got a V12 in it. If I can stand next to the track and get deafened by an Aston Martin Valkyrie V12, that's a good day. Chip Ganassi Racing is pursuing a second Cadillac in the WC. Remember, they ran a second car at Spa and Le Mans. For this year, they ran the 3 car. The 3 car had a nasty wreck at Spa. At Le Mans, it did pretty well when they had all 3 Cadillacs there. But Ganassi does want a second full season Cadillac for WEC at least. We do not know if the O2 will come back in IMSA. We saw the full season WEC crew run the Rolex 24 at the beginning of 2023 before they went over to Europe and Asia to focus on the WEC season. And also, pertaining to Ganassi in the WEC, they will run 2 drivers for the full season. They have, I think it's Earl Bamber and Alex Lynn as the 2 full season drivers. They will only have a third driver for Le Mans, Qatar, and Bahrain, which are the non 6 hour races. So they will run all the 6 hour races with 2 drivers. And I'm guessing that they will do the same with the 01 car in America, that they will run Watkins Glen and Indianapolis with just 2 drivers in the 01. Would not be surprised if that carries over. Well, I saved the big news of the week from the end. We have Andretti's F1 entry got rejected by the FIA. No surprise here. We all knew at this point that pretty much everyone was against a new team joining the grid, but Formula One management said that Andretti's presence wouldn't add value to the championship. And I am so on the other side of that argument. Like, I don't get how adding 2 more cars, 2 more drivers, 2 more talented drivers, because there are so many people complaining about how crowded the Formula One scene is right now. Adding 2 more spots for 2 more talented drivers, how that doesn't better your sport. And what I'm thinking is that this is a Red Bull decision. I am thinking, because Red Bull is so far ahead of everybody that they want to keep their monopoly on the sport. They want to keep raking in the money. Christian Horner is in some trouble. We'll talk about that next week. But this is dumb. It's just dumb. They did leave open a chance for Andretti to join in 2028 when Cadillac and GM have their power unit ready, which I would not be surprised if that car's fast because, GM being GM. But the quote here, it says, "On the basis of the application as it stands, we do not believe that the applicant has shown that it would add value to the championship." And to an extent, I agree with that. Because Red Bull at this point is so far ahead of everybody else that the other 9 teams need to figure out a way to catch up to Red Bull before adding another team that's probably just going to lag behind Red Bull. They were 3 months ago. They were given the green light by the FIA to enter Formula One. So this is not the FIA's choosing. The FIA didn't care. They said, "Come on in." This is a team. This is a Formula One management. This is a team organization that is making this decision. To be fair, Formula One does have competition problems that they need to address before adding another team. They need to actually have a competitive sport that people will watch instead of just a giant money pit. Because the way to draw in good or new dedicated fans is to have fast cars that can race each other. They have the first one. They have all 10 teams have very, very, very fast cars by standards and by looking at, road cars. But they can't race each other. Red Bull ends up winning by 20 seconds every single race. Like, you can't have that happen and expect to have a sport that has a constant growing fan base. You can't do that. It's not going to be healthy in the long run. Adding a new team could help that a little bit, but they have to do something about the competition gap between Red Bull specifically and the other 9 teams. I know Ferrari is getting up there. Like, Ferrari is getting better. They did win one race. They were the only other team this year to win a race. But they need to do something about it. Ferrari and McLaren are on the way up, but the other 9 teams as a whole need to do something about the Red Bull dominance, which from that perspective, I can understand why they don't want another team, but that doesn't support the not adding value to the championship argument, because more cars adds value to the championship, because more cars theoretically means more racing. And the one last thing is that before Cadillac came in 2028, that Andretti would have to find an existing motor supplier, which would have been either Mercedes, Ferrari, Renault Alpine, or I forget what the other one is. Well, there's Honda, which is coming back for 2026, and I believe Audi is a powertrain manufacturer. I could be wrong, but still, it's completely up in the air. More F1 bombshell news. I did not expect to ever say this, but Lewis Hamilton is leaving Mercedes, and no, he's not retiring. He is joining Charles Leclerc at Ferrari for 2025. He's still running Mercedes this year, so Mercedes fanboys don't hate just yet. You still got him for 1 year. Then you can hate him all you want. But oh my word, this is sheesh. It's just I did not expect. This is the last thing I expected to wake up to, like get on Twitter and see, oh, Lewis Hamilton's joining Ferrari, and I'm like, oh, is this like a joke post? Is this a meme? Because I've seen a ton of those like F1 graphic memes about, like Lightning McQueen joins Alpine for 2025 or so. Just stupid driver moves like that. I didn't know if this was real until about 2:00 that same day. One of my friends confirmed it, and then I get on Twitter, and then the Ferrari account, the Ferrari Twitter account confirms it. So it's happening. I wouldn't be. They say it's a multi-year deal, so I would not be surprised if this is just like a bucket list item for Lewis Hamilton, and he's just going to like end his career at Ferrari. Because if you're going to end your career anywhere, Mercedes is on the way down. Ferrari's surging again. Ferrari might be able to catch Red Bull. They were the only other team to win a race besides Red Bull this year, which is they won one race. They won Singapore, and that's it because Max Verstappen is bad at street circuits apparently. But Ferrari's on the way up. Mercedes is on the way down. You can argue the dynasty ended in 2020, or 2021 if you want to count Abu Dhabi. But yeah, Lewis Hamilton is ditching Mercedes and joining Ferrari in 2025, and that's the last news item that I have on the on my little Google Doc here. So I'm going to do, once again, I'm going to do shameless YouTuber plugs. If you enjoyed the content, if you made it this far, make sure to like the video, share to any of your friends who have, an insane amount of time on their hands and need to listen to something for 45 minutes. Like the video, subscribe, share with your friends. If you got questions, I'll answer them in the next podcast. Just drop them in the comments. If you have hot takes too, because I would really like to see some of those, because I've been going around Twitter and seeing some hot takes lately. But Discord, Twitter, and other assorted social links will be in the description. Thank you for listening to the return of the TWIR Weekly Podcast for 2024, and have an incredible rest of your day. See ya.